All right, the Reds, it's the second look. We're taking a second look at Liverpool's win over Huddersfield at the weekend, 1-0. Scrappy game, horrible game, not a great one to watch. But we're going to have another big chat about it anyway. I'm Gareth Roberts. I've got Paul Cope with me. I've got Dan Morgan with me. Let's start with the stats like we always do on this show. Liverpool had 52% of the possession, 11 shots to Huddersfield's 13, 2 on target to Huddersfield's 1 on target, 4 corners to their 2, 6 fouls to their 9. It is the best start to a season defensively now in Liverpool's history. Alisson also has kept 6 clean sheets in his opening 9 Premier League starts. The only goalkeeper to have kept more in his opening 9 starts in the Premier League is Petr Cech. So yeah, the Reds are solid, they're great defensively. Going the other way though, still some concerns is the general vibe. How are you feeling about it all, Dan, about the Reds right now? Joint top of the league still, obviously. City going a little bit over the horizon, goal difference-wise now, 10 better than the Reds, but still plenty of positives, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. There's a few narratives kicking around now, isn't there? I think I've seen a few people on Saturday night, wondering whether this is all going to be something that precipitates us falling off a cliff, you know what I mean? And I think some people have referenced 02-03.
Yeah.
Under Houllier, where I think we start in a similar mould and then we don't win any of the next 11 or something like that going to Christmas. I don't think that's the case. I think that what I would say is I don't think there's a lot wrong or there's a lot that needs to be done. I think the manager's referenced it in his comments post-match. It's coming down to, at times, a case of just one pass.
Yeah.
And I think what I'd be really interested in to know is how they're training. I think if they're pairing in training, I think he's all right. I think he's not panicking. There's no panic stations. He's thinking, we've just got to get this one pass right and it'll be all right for us in terms of winning by a larger margin. I think if they're not doing it in training, if they are knocking off a little bit, if it all just being a bit too casual at Melwood as well, then there might be a case that he's got something to work out there. But I don't think we have to put ourselves in this position where we have to make a decision about Liverpool as to whether they be last season's Liverpool or now this season's Liverpool. I don't think they're two mutually exclusive things. I think what it is in certain cases is that we probably could have won a few more games by 2, 3, 4 more goals had that one thing been better. And I've got to just keep faith that it'll come, and I think we all have. I think we've all just got to be a little bit patient with them. Got to take other factors into consideration. Teams are knackered still from the summer. Gareth Southgate references that with England, and we're doing all right still. We're winning games, that's the main thing.
Yeah, and defensively, Copey, there's been so many years. You've been going a match for a long time as well as I have, and how long did we want a defence that was mean? How long did we want a goalkeeper that can save things, a centre-half that's towering and brilliant and all the rest of it? We've got all of those things now, and I think the thing worth saying is that this isn't new now. It isn't just this season. It's ever since a year ago when Liverpool were beaten 4-1 by Spurs. The record, if you sort of start from then and bring it to now, is pretty good. I've seen Andrew Beasley writing something along similar lines today. I wrote something that went up on the site earlier today about that. From that point onwards, after the Spurs defeat, only Manchester City then won more points than Liverpool in the rest of last season. And the Reds only conceded 22 goals in 29 games, scoring 70. City scored more, 74, but I think they conceded 23. So Liverpool had the best defence from that point onwards. Now we started another season, conceded only 3. This isn't just Van Dijk, and this isn't just Alisson. This is like a collective thing now that's gone on for a while.
Yeah, definitely. And it factors into everything else as well, doesn't it? Because I often think for football managers in this position, what's Klopp thinking at the moment? We're all talking this. Even the way we're starting this conversation is, and you're like, what do you mean? What he must be sitting there thinking, I don't know what's the problem, lads. Yeah. We've conceded 3 goals. Like half of the game of football is defensively. And I saw Carragher saying this the weekend, and I thought this is brilliant on an interview with Neil. He said, when we talk about teams playing well or not playing well, what we actually mean is attacking well or not attacking well. That's what we mean. And I thought it's a brilliant point, that, because I'd never thought of that really before. But he's right. And this is exactly what we're talking about. This team is playing brilliantly well at one end of the pitch. And I think the problem we've all got is our perceptions of what this team should do to play well. Because none of us saw this coming. I was laughing with the lads in the pub on Saturday saying, it's like watching a different football team now. And I think we're all just struggling to get our heads around it. That we're joint. Every time I say joint top, I've got Evertonians in my head going, there's no such thing as joint top, you're second. They're like, okay, we're second on goal difference. We've got the same points as City. The improvement from this time last year is phenomenal. And we all know, from as far back in history as you want to go, the vast majority of league campaigns, league wins, if not all of them, are built on solid defences, not flying attacks. Yeah. There have been loads of teams in the past who've had flying attacks and never won the league. We've had a few of them in our time, even as us since the last time we won. We've seen it with teams, with Keegan's Newcastle, obviously Rodgers, Liverpool. It's great and it's exciting and all the rest of it. But if you want to win the league, you've got to concede as few goals as possible. So, I mean, I'm getting myself excited just talking about that. I think that is really, really encouraging for going forward, because regardless of what happens at the other end of the pitch, I don't see that changing. I don't see this defence and this goalkeeper all of a sudden falling off a cliff, which means going into any game, and think about that from the opposition's viewpoint, going into any game, you only need one goal from the other lads. And you've still, whether they're firing or not, if you say to any opponent we play, do you fancy one of their front six to get one goal? I'm pretty sure they'd all say, yeah, we do.
I mean, there's a bit, isn't there, like people are talking, and Klopp includes a little bit that we rode our look at the weekend, and obviously Huddersfield should have had a penalty. There's the shot that it's the post. There's an offside, but it's still offside. That was right, that decision. But when you look at the stats and dig a little bit deeper, one shot on target, like I mentioned earlier, from Huddersfield, but also no big chances, again, as operated, if you like. And that's become a theme throughout the season, that Liverpool don't give up many chances. You don't get many opportunities to score a goal now against Liverpool. And despite the match sort of looking a certain way at first look, there's an argument there to say that although we play quite poorly, we give the ball away a lot. It was the most that they've given the ball away this season, 111 times apparently. But there's still an element of control there, isn't there, from Liverpool?
Yeah, absolutely. I heard Rob say on the post-match show that he felt Liverpool could have gone up a gear, and I agreed with him. You know, if they had to, they could have went up a gear, and they could have got the second goal in the gear they were in as well. And what struck me is, it's not just with Huddersfield, it's with a lot of teams this season, is they have to be perfect to get something against us. You know, it's not the concept of hang on till in a game until 80 and we'll get one. You know, we'll get a set piece and they'll give you one of these. That's gone now. That looks, by all intents and purposes, that it's no longer present within this side, as Cope says. So I think that there's the element of Liverpool knowing that they've got a solid base within a game. And when we talk about defending as well, you know, the defenders are a team. And that's been the thing that's been present in Klopp's era. So the front three are still tracking back, whoever they are. Yeah. You know, they're still pressing. They're not pressing as much or as hard, but they've got that exertion of control in fixtures now, where I think they're allowing themselves a little bit of room and margin for error. And maybe they're doing that a little bit too much in key situations where they're being a little bit blasé, like I said before, in those counter-attacking situations where they're not being as decisive as you want them to be with that final pass. But I think it's a case that, like you say, we can get a goal in a game now and we can get our footing in there. And I think when we look at as far back in the season as Brighton, you know, that's in our DNA now and we're building that all the time. And I made a point on Saturday to the lads who I was watching the game with that. If you want last season Liverpool so much, then you're going to have to cough for draw at home against Everton, drawing against Stoke and West Brom, we both went down, and drawing against Newcastle, for example. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be that way, because obviously it's completely different. And I'm not saying, like before, we have to be an attacking team or a defending team. But those little lapses in concentration were present last season and they're not now. So it's given us a good base to go from, I think.
And to put it into context, which you touched on before, Kopi, Liverpool, in comparison to last year, after 9 league games last year, we'd scored 14, conceded 16, had 13 points, and City were already away on 25. So, you know, this season round, this time around, we've scored 16, conceded 3, and we're on 23 points, the same as Manchester City. So whereas pretty much at this time of year last year, we could say, well, it's not looking great, we're not going to challenge for the title, 12 points is too much to make up. right now we're on the same points as City. We know how good they are. There's a little bit of that, by the way, as well going on. I think the fact that they go and score a shed load again at the weekend, that sort of takes the shine off what you're doing. And everyone, I was doing it myself immediately post-match, going, well, they scored 5 there, and they scored loads they scored 6 against Huddersfield, 5 against Cardiff, and I was like, they're just going to disappear over the horizon with the goal difference. But nevertheless, we're still there. We're on the tiles. We're doing well.
Yeah,
and especially in comparison to last year.
Yeah, and I think there's something really important to say about Man City as well. And for all that we're not scoring all the goals that we did at one point, and Klopp's made these comments, and we were saying this in the pub, that all season we've struggled with sort of final passes in the final third. The number of times where if a pass is played half a yard the other way, we're in. And it's just been scuffed and hit against the defender, the one defender that's in the way of the key pass. That's happened loads. On the flip side of that, everything Man City hits going in. If you watch their goals against Burnley at the weekend, Fernandinho hits one, side foot, top corner. They dry up at some point in the season. You have purple patches where everything you hit goes in. I always remember the 6-1 Rodgers at the end of that season where it was just all falling apart. Everything they hit that day went in. And it's so rare that happens in a football match. When you watch it back at the time, it feels awful. I remember doing a review just after that game and saying, watch it back. I think they had 7 shots. They had 3 from outside the box, all go in the top corner. Very rare that happens. And the same thing will happen with City. It happened last season. The thing that's encouraging for me is, and I bet if you asked Guardiola this in private, he'd be saying this, we're playing like we were last season and we're blowing teams away, but that dries up. They're still with us and they haven't kicked into gear yet. And that's the problem. For them, they blew everyone away. Mourinho's teams used to do this. They start really fast, they blow everyone away. Everyone sort of packs it in and says, well, there's no way we'll catch them. Focus on other things. What they're doing is the same they did last year, blowing everyone they play away, and we're sticking with them. And that's, I think psychologically, that's so damaging for them. It doesn't matter how many goals they score. This is the big thing. We've all got this little thing in our minds about goal difference. Let's forget that for now. If we lose the league on goal difference, okay, we'll find out at the end of the season and it'll be closer than we've ever come. But right now, we're neck and neck on points, and all we need to do is keep doing that, keep that defensive record going. And just, I'd be amazed if these strikers don't click back into gear at some point.
Mentioned the passing, the most failed passing from in a match all season from Liverpool. I mean, there was a lot of sloppy play. Klopp afterwards was moaning about what you said, Kopi, about the idea that, it was always at the final ball, let them down so many times. I mean, just on a first watch, when I was watching it, I thought Sturridge and Salah struggled at times to find each other, to find other men around them, and the sort of the pass completion figures sort of backed that up, because Sturridge was 73.2 pass completion, Salah 75, Lallana 81, Milner 86, Shaqiri 87, Henderson 86, Gomez 83, Robertson 80, Lovren 87, Van Dijk 82, subs, Fabinho 58, which doesn't look great, Wijnaldum 92, which does, Firmino 66. I mean, I think we've got to talk about the team a little bit when we're analysing this game as well, haven't we? Because, Wijnaldum comes in and does well, and so instantly you go, well, why didn't he start? But then, Klopp's come out and said he had some kind of ear infection, stroke bug, so that's why he didn't start. Mane, obviously broken thumb. Naby Keita, hamstring. Firmino only back from international duty and quite, a long trip on Thursday, so he decided not to play him. Henderson going off with his hamstring. Lallana starting the first league game since New Year's Day. Sturridge first league start for 11 months. He was even saying about Shaqiri that he'd had 2 games for Switzerland. If they looked a bit leggy and they were lacking a little bit of rhythm, there's a lot to explain it right there, isn't there?
And that's a shape in a team that we haven't seen this season. Yeah. It reminds me of almost a League Cup game, that type of team that will go out in the type of team, apart from the keeper maybe as well, that you would expect to go out in the League Cup if you had a Premier League opposition and go and get a result. And I think what it reminded me of more than anything is that just how many hats this manager has to wear and how many different types of person he has to be to different people in that squad throughout the season, So Liverpool have gone 7 games or whatever, 8 games with near enough the same side for 2 to 3 months, and you like see your Shaqiris, your Sturridges are having to sit there every week, starting from the bench and not getting any minutes in most cases. Now he's got to be having conversations with them. He can't just have his 11 lads every week who he's talking to. He's got to be talking to these lads as well and saying, let's just get over this hill. And I promise you, he's got to promise them, I promise you, I'll give you something. You know, I'll give you something to build on. That could have been in his head that it was Huddersfield from the start. Okay, the injuries make it a little bit more circumstantial, but I think you've got to take into account the fact that we've got a big squad now. These players need games, and that if we are to implement 3 to 5 changes over the next few games, then it might just look a little bit disjointed. Personally, you know, when we see the team line up as well, we all expect Shaqiri to be in the front three, Lallana deeper. It's the other way around. Yeah. That can count for a lot. You know, we've talked a lot about the link man lately. Are we missing the link man? Maybe Klopp's thought he gets Shaqiri in there, he gets Sturridge and Salah around each other, he gets Lallana buzzing about. Maybe he wants an idea of 2 to 3 link men instead of just one. You know, he wants it to all flow and be a little bit more fluid. So there's loads of things to consider when you look at the team itself. And I think there's some good performances in there, you know, from people who maybe haven't had any decent headlines from it. I thought Lallana done well, considering it was his first game back in that long. Okay, he gasses, but you forget how good he is on the ball, but you forget how good he is off it as well. His work rate, I think, is really good, and he puts everything in. I thought Lovren played really well. It's his second game back in. He's kind of come back in unnoticed and quiet, and there's a lot to build on from there for the manager, and it's good for the manager now that carrying on with the run of games, he's got more players with games in the legs now if you need them to call and not coming in cold. So I think it's a good thing in that sense.
Shaqiri seems to enjoy himself. Klopp was talking about, you know, sort of why he was in where he was, if you like, and he said, you know, do we put Fabinho on and Hendo on the right, or do we bring in Shaqiri? Shaqiri made sense. It looked good. He says offensively he looked good. He was a very dominant player. He was absolutely okay, and he liked it. But at the end, he had to fight as well. And he's now had 3 90 minutes in 10 days, so we'll see how we react. 2 shots from Shaqiri, both blocked. Pass-wise, I mentioned before, 87.3 pass completion. It was decent. Obviously, the assist for the goal and created 2 chances as well. So a decent showing from Shaqiri, did you think?
Yeah, I thought he was good. And it's interesting what Dan was saying. I think we all expected Lallana to line up in midfield. And it's interestingly, and we were talking Reds last week, I'm one of Lallana's biggest fans, but I never want to see him further forward on the pitch. So I was questioning having it that way round, and I'm not sure it worked for both of them. But the irony, considering I'm such a big Lallana fan, is it was Lallana I was worried about, not Shaqiri. I actually think I'm quite comfortable with Shaqiri in either position, and it makes sense to me that we've all been talking, and maybe it's the sort of in vogue thing to be talking about, is Oxlade-Chamberlain's missing with that drive from midfield, and that's the thing, and we thought Keita was going to bring that, and he's not really settled yet. So it makes sense to try Shaqiri in that role. And you could see, even in the build-up to the goal, that seemed to be where they were trying to get him in. They're trying to get him into that position in between the lines. They referenced that in the post-match comments. So I think as far as he goes, something I love about him, I love his attitude. He's so bullish about everything and so confident, and we've seen it so many times in the past. Stuart Downing always springs to mind with this. I've always got a story about seeing Stuart Downing queuing up for a bar in town and saying to me, mate, he's never going to be a Liverpool player, because you can't have the attitude as a Liverpool winger that you're going to queue up with everybody else. You've got to walk right to the front, mate. You play for Liverpool, just walk in. Shaqiri's not queuing up anywhere, is he?
No.
Shaqiri's walking straight to the front, getting his drinks brought to him by the waitress. So I love that attitude about him, and it's as if he's come in with the attitude of course I play at this level, this is where I'm meant to be. And he talks as if he's one of the main men, which I really like. And when he plays like that, which I don't think that can be underestimated. Because if you compare that to Fabinho, for example, I don't think Fabinho's got that about him at all at the moment. Bearing in mind he was at Monaco and came across, I think he looks a bit like a fish out of water. The fella who's struggling a little bit. Again, be interesting to see what he's like in training and how he's performing. But I think Shaqiri when you're in Shaqiri's position, all you can do is what he's doing, which is keep getting your chances, keep performing, keep that attitude, and say to the manager, I'm one of your best 11. And I think we're sort of getting to a position now where if he wants someone driving from midfield, as long as he can do the defensive side, which Klopp seems to be in those comments fairly satisfied with when he's talking about fighting towards the end. He could have a shout for getting more regular start, I'd say.
What's interesting as well is that it's only something minor, but you know, if you play football before, you automatically get these triggers in your head, and I got a lot of reassurance from the fact that Gomez punched the ball into him, like he could trust him with it. You know, if you play yourself and there's a lad on you're playing when you're not too sure about, you'll try and clip on over him, or you'll try and give him something a bit easier, but Gomez looks at him and goes, I know what you can do with this if I give you it in that half space. And then, like Cope says, it's like they've wanted him in those areas because they know he can turn, and then it's a quality ball he puts through for Salah as well.
There was, I don't know whether you saw this, but Pep Linders and Klopp celebrated the goal, and I turned to the lads in the pub and I said, I love celebrations like that. It wasn't like a massive celebration. It was
that's what we did.
That's what we practiced. Yeah. That's exactly what we were meant to be doing, and we've pulled it off, which I really like.
Red Star Belgrade on Wednesday then briefly. Just wanted to ask you about that because Red Star, the odds are quite remarkable on this. 55 to 1 to win at Anfield. Liverpool are 14 to 1 on. And 16 to 1 for the draw. So, given in mind that the bookies think the shit, what are you doing, or what do you expect team-wise for us to see on Wednesday? I think
Fabinho might start. I think it's in many ways a perfect game to get him in and get him going, and hopefully get him going and seeing him as a Liverpool player in this Liverpool shape. He's got to manage, as you referenced before, not only Saturday but the internationals that have gone before that as well. So. It might be that Daniel gets another go. It might be that he wants to look at something that he's seen in Huddersfield in around Sturridge in one of the front three. I'd expect Firmino to come back in. Now, where that is, if you're going to play Sturridge, I'm not too sure. It's a funny one, Firmino, isn't he? Because he's terrible from the bench, always. He never comes off well. And that's fine. He might just be that type of player who's better from the start. But also, I don't think he's great when he's got another player up with him. I think I always say it, he's such a hybrid, in that the more space you give him to occupy, the better he is. So I remember, we looked at some kind of 4-2-4 last season against Brighton on the last day, and everyone was saying how well him and Solanke done. I thought he was really affected by Solanke, by being around his space. I think he's so good and he's so integrated in that position now that for me, it has to be his own, and whether Klopp looks at that and says, well, I bring him in, take Sturridge out and get his normal shape around him, or I look to do something a little bit experimental given the lack of faith in anyone in Red Star, then I'm not sure. But the main thing is, we need this win, and it's must win. So we've got to go out to win the game, but I think we've also got to go out to start well and quick, and we've done that in the Champions League for a long time now, and we know what European nights at Anfield can do and what they can bring, and they can certainly get a spring in the step in the plays in the first 20. I think we don't want to become frustrated in the game and it become a slogger process, because then these questions we've answered all through this show start regurgitating and everyone starts carrying on with the same team. It'd be good if we can get a nice, comfortable win by 2 or 3 goals and get them early on.
And just quickly, Moreno, Trent, expect either of them to get a go?
I don't. It was funny listening to Klopp's comment about Huddersfield and how he was, and the players said this, Lallana said it, we've been talking all week, don't underestimate them, and he'll be doing the same with Red Star, and I don't think he'll make that many changes, because at the end of the day it's a Champions League game, and it sort of raises alarm bells for me when you see odds like 55 to 1. The first thing I think is, I'll have a tenner on that, because it's a 2-horse race, and I just think those type of numbers can put everyone in the mindset of, we'll just walk all over these. We can play Solanke, we can play Origi, we can play Moreno. I just don't think it's that simple. As Dan says, we have to win the game. So I can't imagine Klopp will do anything other than maybe make a couple of changes, depending on the fitness of different players, and go out there to win, and win convincingly. And if you can get 1 or 2 up early on, then it's an opportunity to try and get some free-flowing football going again, and try and get the lads further up the pitch scoring some goals. But first and foremost, Klopp will want to win. So I see Trent coming back in, because it's sort of on that side of the pitch, you can maybe start to see the pattern of how he's going to rest and rotate those players and keep them all a bit fresh. So maybe Gomez drops out because Lovren can do his second game and Trent comes in for that game. I'd be amazed if Moreno plays. But I think I'd say that every game as we go through the season.
Well, we'll see. Madrid and Barcelona seem to like him, if the press is to be believed. Lots more on the Anfield app as ever, podcasts, writing. Check it all out at theanfieldapp.com. Thanks to the lads. That has been The Second Look.